Hey guys, I must have been thinking of something from my past and then all of a sudden I decided to do a whole video about this topic, which is going on field trips as a visually impaired person. I looked a little bit on YouTube and I didn't see anything like this, so thought I'd go ahead and create it. So in elementary school, middle school, and a little bit in high school, I went on field trips, both special ed field trips and field trips with my regular ed classes. And oddly enough, I actually don't even remember that many of the field trips with my regular ed class. I remember the big one that we took in 5th grade, which I'll talk about in a minute. But primarily with like my elementary school class, the special ed class, we would go, well, the ones I remember really, we would go to the theater. We went to go see a theater production of Jack and the Beanstalk. And I was fine through most of the theater experience, except at almost the very end, at like the most climactic part of the play, they had these flashing lights, and we were in the front row. They had these flashing lights that really freaked me out and gave me anxiety, which, you know, obviously at the time, I didn't know it was anxiety. I didn't know there was a word for it. And I'll talk about anxiety in a different video. But anyhow, so after the play, they let us meet the actors in the film. They came up to talk to us. And I remember I was talking to the guy that played the giant, and I was telling him, I said, you know, those lights really scared me. And he mentioned that they were strobe lights. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. You know, I didn't know there was like a technical term for them. Another theater experience that they took us to, that they took my visually impaired class to, was they took us to see a theater production of The Little Mermaid, which actually I think it was more of like a ballet, because none of the characters talked, they just danced. And they actually didn't get us very good seats, because I remember sitting way back in the theater, and our teacher was describing to us what was going on, and she apparently wasn't that familiar with the Disney movie, because instead of calling Sebastian a crab, she called him a lobster. She's like, oh, the lobster is dancing. And we're like, no, it's a crab. And of course, you know me, the other thing I mostly remember going on field trips to do with my visually impaired class as an elementary school kid was we went to movies. Not a lot of movies, but I remember we went to go see The Nutcracker with Macaulay Culkin. I was so excited to see that. And then we went to go see Muppet Christmas Carol. And another time we went to go see The Rescuers Down Under. And ever since then I've really loved the name Bianca. I thought that was a cool name. So the big trip that I remember taking with my regular ed class was we had a 5th grade trip where we went to Washington, D.C. and then New York City. And of course the one I was most excited about was going to New York City, even though I didn't know anything about it at the time. I remember we took a Greyhound bus there. So I remember the first night that we were in Washington, D.C., they had us go use the indoor swimming pool and swimming. And I remember I was swimming in the regular end of the pool, and I don't remember why, but this girl decided to lure me into the deep end. I don't know why. Like what, I don't know what excuse it was that she gave me, that she was trying to get me to go to the deep end of the pool, but anyway, I believed her, and so I started, you know, because I wanted friends, I trusted her, and so I started heading to the deep end of the pool, and I was, you know, using my hands to hold on to the edge so that I wouldn't fall, and when you know it, this girl gets me out to the deep end of the pool. She swims underneath, and she grabs my leg and pulls me under the water, and of course, you know, I freaked out, I got anxiety. I don't remember exactly how I got above the water. I'm pretty sure I did it by myself though, and you know, it kind of soured my view on the trip a little bit. So the two girls that were roommates of mine for this trip, you know, obviously they were both the same age as I was. They were 10, and whenever we would get to a hotel, they would always claim one bed, and then they would leave me to share a bed with one of the girls' grandmothers who was a chaperone. And I'm not a big educational buff. I'm not a big. I was never a fan of school. Doesn't matter which incarnation it was, whether it was elementary school, middle school, high school, college. I just feel like a lot of it is stuff that, you know, it's not practical. It's not real life stuff. So, you know, I mean, we went to the museums and the Mint, and, you know, I think we walked outside the White House a little bit. The most exciting thing for me in Washington was when we went to the cemetery. Actually, I ended up, I was so excited about it that I ended up taking an entire roll of film. You know, they had those Kodak throwaway cameras at the time. So I ended up taking an entire roll of film of just flowers and gravestones at the cemetery. And then when we went to New York, we went to the Empire State Building. We went to the Statue of Liberty. That was back in the day when you could walk all the way up the stairs to the Statue of Liberty. And I mean, I was a little, considering I had anxiety, I'm surprised I wasn't more nervous about it. But like the walkway, the staircase leading up to the top of the Statue of Liberty kept getting smaller and smaller. But got up there anyway, and felt accomplished. We went to FAO Sports. I remember the only thing I bought there was a harmonica. And we went to see Cats on Broadway, which is thrilling for a 10-year-old. You know, I mean, what 10-year-old doesn't want to see Cats? So we spent, well, actually, me in particular, I spent the first half of it with everyone who was like way up. I think we were in like the balcony section or something. And then there was intermission, and one of the chaperones, actually, I don't know who she talked to, but she was nice enough to take me to the like the left side, the right side of the stage, in the first row. And the really funny thing is that once the intermission ended, all these girls in cat suits started walking by and smiling at me and petting me on the head. I'm like, oh, that's nice, they're friendly. I always preferred going on trips with my visually impaired class just because it was so much smaller, and I don't know, there were more adults around, and you know, it was just people that I had spent more time with and were nicer to me than the regular ed kids. Like the main field trips we would take, which, you know, obviously these are like weekend field trips too. Not all of these field trips I'm talking about are like, you know, a couple hours or like a whole day field trip. You know, some of them are longer. Obviously the trip to Washington and New York was a week long. And then in middle school and high school, we took a lot of trips to the NFB for the weekend, for convention, and you know, I mean, you definitely, you know, for someone who went to school like me in the early, you know, mid to late 90s and early 2000s, you definitely hear a lot of speeches from people who have lost their vision. And then the thing that most people, at least the people my age, looked forward to was to go to the dance at the NFB conventions. I had social anxiety, and so I was afraid that as soon as I made a move, every person in the entire room would start staring at me. So I wasn't the type of person to like get up and dance. But I do remember one time I actually got up the nerve to go up to the DJ, and I looked at, you know, the CDs they had, and I requested a song because I thought everybody would be able to dance to All I Really Want by Alanis Morissette. And I guess that was all in my head because, you know, I mean, I used to be, you know, the type to dance around my room to music that I liked. But I don't know, as soon as I requested the song and they turned it on, like everybody just like moved off the dance floor and started talking. So I was a bit disappointed about that. Alright, well, I know this is a short and sweet video, but I hope y'all found it interesting. And please subscribe, please like, please comment, and I'll see y'all next time.